big game. I'll start doing it. The last group we get to talk about, the best group to talk about, the offensive line, which for the first time in God knows how long.
Well, knock on wood there before you say it.
Yes, there's wood everywhere.
Training camp hasn't started.
Let's chill. Potentially,
yeah,
the same starting five across the offensive line. Obviously, we got our starters: Darisaw, Cleveland, Bradbury, Ingram, and O'Neal. But even the backups are pretty consistent from what we can see. Blake Brandel still here. Chris Reed obviously put on PUP today. Schlottman, Oliudo, and in low. And I think my app isn't loading, but I think there's
and we just signed Bobby Evans.
Yep.
Yes.
I think we signed him late last year, I think.
Oh, that's right. He was on the practice squad real late last year, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think so. And then
I forgot about that.
We just brought him back, and he's a tackle guard. He can kind of intermingle between those two, but trained as a tackle. He came out of college as a tackle.
Let's work from the inside out here, because I want to get your guys' thoughts quick on Garrett Bradbury. Fans were ready to write him off through his first 4 years here, and rightfully so. He didn't really perform to the level of a first-round draft pick, but the Vikings gave him a contract this offseason to bring him back. And at the end of last season, many fans were just praying he'd get healthy enough so he would come back, because we could feel his presence miss. So he's back. What are your guys' thoughts on the center position? Are you comfortable with Bradbury here in his second season in Kevin O'Connell's scheme?
Go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, I mean, for years I've been obviously on the let's move on from Bradbury train. I really want us to draft Creed Humphrey 2 years ago.
Is. 40 minutes in.
Obviously, he's now the best center in football. But Bradbury, I'll give him credit where credit's due. He played well last year. I think that new coaching staff, offensive line coach, plus Kevin O'Connell and his scheme, were able to kind of really get the best out of Garrett Bradbury. And yes, to your point, when he wasn't in, I mean, I don't think it was like, oh, the sky's falling. Schlottman actually played relatively well as well in that role. But you could definitely tell that he was missed, especially when Schlottman also went down.
Yeah.
So excited to have him back. Excited to see him in year 2 of this offense again. For the first time in his career, having, again, knock on wood, continuity at both sides of him in Ed Ingram and Ezra Cleveland, having them there, I think will also allow him to feel a bit more comfortable and understanding, okay, this guy does this well, this guy does this well, this is where I may need to help or shade over or what have you. And hopefully that continuity really helps him. But yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do this year. He signed a 3-year deal, so he's going to be with us for a couple years at least. And a very team-friendly contract, in my opinion. I thought it was a pretty good deal for us.
Yeah, especially considering what some of the other offensive linemen out there were getting at the time. 100%.
Yeah, I think we got him like $1 million less than, I would say, players that are not even as good as him, or like right at his level, but maybe not even as good as him. So
yeah, and it sounds like he had an offer from the 49ers. Now I don't know what the offer was from them, but he had options. So it's not like the Vikings were the only team trying to.
Probably just didn't want to go against that 49er defensive line every day in practice.
Well, I mean, I guess the money had to have been very similar, because
yeah,
why leave? Like if you, I think the one thing people always think is like to chase, like the money's but then people think people forget, people also like if they like where they're at, they don't want to always leave, even if they
have to learn something new.
Yeah, it's and so he gets to come back to something, and if the money's like the same or more continuity matters for people too.
By the way, before we move on to the guards here, do you guys remember when Kirk Cousins in 2019? I remember this when we were talking about it, but he called out Garrett Bradbury's butt for being too sweaty.
I kind of remember that, yeah.
I do, yeah.
I didn't need to be reminded. Thanks. Thanks, man.
He says it looks like a window after a rainstorm because he sweats so much.
Oh, Kirk.
I kind of like Kirk, especially after that documentary, but whatever. Let's switch to the guards here. We got Ezra Cleveland and Ed Ingram back. Cleveland in a contract year. we probably think he's likely gone after the season, but who knows? And then Ed Ingram, who kind of made strides towards the back end of the year with Oli Udoh is his backup, and Chris Reed is Ezra's backup, but he's on the pup.
Yeah, well, he's on the NFI, so it sounds like he might have gotten hurt or been injured off of. So basically, that means he wasn't injured during any sort of football activity, or he's not ready to play.
Got it. I misread that. Thank you.
For what he got injured from in a non-football in the facility type of situation, so he could have been training at home, and they call the NFI because it's a different responsibility than it is if like he got injured at the facility or practicing or whatnot. But yeah, so the guard position is actually the one I'm probably the most worried about. Cleveland's been steadily like meh. I think there's times where he's good and he's just not consistent. You'd like that to hopefully find its stride this year. But at the same time, he's just not a guy that I don't think you need to like build around long term. But we'll see. Like it's one of those situations. Maybe he plays like a Garrett Bradbury last year. He takes that additional step and is more consistent. And he's someone you want to keep around. Ed Ingram's obviously in a different situation where it's not a contract year, but it's a prove it year because it's that like next step after your rookie year. Like he really needs to take a next step, not just like because it was bad. Like when it was bad last year, it was like worse than the league bad.
It was bad.
Yeah, and so like that's like the bar for him needs to be higher than like just being a bad starting guard. He needs to be significantly better than that. And so like that's where it's tough for me. And then obviously we don't know the situation with Chris Reed, if that's a consistent, if he'll be out long, if he won't. But like that backup position at both guard spots does worry me because of the Chris Reed situation, not knowing. Now, if his is very minor, it doesn't matter, whatever. But if it is a little bit more, then I think they need to figure that out quickly because if Ed Ingram needs to be replaced, if someone gets hurt, like they need to find someone with more consistency than anybody they have in the roster. Oli Udoh was not good at guard. He's a good tackle, but he's not a guy you want to play guard.
Yeah.
And Brandel was kind of a do-it-all, but I think he's probably better served as the backup left tackle more than anything. And so but those guys might have to, fall in line in a pinch if they had to. But I just think they could bring in somebody to be a better, more depth if Chris Reed it's all just contingent on Chris Reed's situation. But I think he's a solid interior backup in general, though.
You comfortable with that group, Ryan? Also, you've got me looking at 2024 guards already because if Ingram doesn't pan out and Cleveland leaves, then we're SOL.
Yeah,
but I'll let.
Well, I mean, they get a lot of money. They got a lot of money next year, so they can figure something out.
That's true.
Not overly concerned. I mean, again, the fact that you have two guards that are coming back together for a second year together in an offense that's the same, that I'm excited for. Yes, obviously Ed Ingram needs to take a leap, and Ezra Cleveland needs to become more consistent. I think, if I remember correctly, I think he was rated the 8th best guard last year. So I mean, like his highs were pretty high, and I think that was mainly in run blocking versus pass protection.
I think so too.
And obviously with guards, we don't ever see or care about their run blocking abilities. It's all about pass protection for all offensive.
Well, and the team as a whole as a running team sucks. So like that's great that he was good, but the rest of the unit sucked, right?
Yeah, it was horrible. Or just our running backs were just not hitting their head holes or whatever it was. Who knows? But I mean, I guess I'm a little less concerned than Myles is, I guess, just because but like yes, if you have an injury there, we don't have a name that we're really excited about, but also what team does, right? Like it's hard enough to find a good starting five as it is. So
does someone surprise us?
Well, real quick,
that's the thing. Like Bobby Evans is coming in, and Oklahoma tried and true, so he can come in and save the day. He can come in and save the day.
Well, nothing. So I should say I'm not like worried. I'm only worried about if Chris Reed is like. If that's like a long-term injury, like that's where I'm.
Well, and then we'll probably bring like a legit somebody in.
Yeah. And so I'm not like, I like the continuity, and it's just more of like, it's still questions like, can Ed Ingram improve significantly just to be like a below average guard, right? can Ezra Cleveland just be consistent in pass pro? Like, those are the things, like, it's not like I'm like freaking out, like, oh my God, the sky's falling. It's just more of like, can they just find consistency and kind of raise that floor?
Sure.
All right, let's shift to the tackles here. Obviously, we alluded to it at the top of the show, but Darrisaw and O'Neal, maybe two of the best tackle tandem in the NFL. But O'Neal's getting older, and he's coming off an Achilles injury. Darrisaw had his fair share of injuries as well, though looks to be, promising to be a fantastic left tackle for the foreseeable future. What are we thinking here as we head into training camp?
Yeah, I feel good about it. Obviously, Myles, you had alluded to it earlier, probably, if not the best, one of the best tackle tandems in the league. And then our depth there is, I think, pretty solid as well. Again, Myles already alluded to this a bit, but Blake Brandel in a pinch had to come in for Darrisaw last year when he had his concussion. I thought played quite well. I mean, considering as he's
he
a
really
backup. Yeah, and then when O'Neal went out, we had Oli Udoh come in and step in right away and play really well as well. I have heard Vidarian Lowe has gotten some first team reps just because obviously O'Neal's injured right now and he's recovering. So Vidarian Lowe has gotten some first team reps, so maybe he's kind of taken that next step after being a rookie late round pick out of Illinois. So honestly, I'm as excited as you could be for the tackle position. I mean, you have two studs already, and it seems like we have some very competent backup play available to us. That's the position I'm least worried about right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say Lowe is probably the guy that I'm like excited to see this offseason, during camp and preseason, just because I think it sounds like he might have the inside edge of being the backup right tackle, whereas Oli Udoh might be shifting into guard, just because I think they seem to like Lowe enough. Yeah. Obviously, he was their draft pick, but they also did bring back Oli Udoh on the, what is that? I can't remember what the name of it is. Like the veteran. There's like a veteran deal where he's basically only counts as a veteran minimum to the cap, but he gets paid like $2 million.
Who is this?
Oli Udoh. I can't remember the name of it. I always forget it, but it's like
some sort of like transition tag type thing, something, right?
Not transition, but it's like a veteran it's like an exemption type thing where like they get, because you have to be on the same team for at least 4 years. So it's basically any like if you've been a rookie, if you've been drafted and then you play 4 years, but like I think you have to be on a team for at least 4 or 5 years.
4-year qualifying option.
Thank you. 4-year qualifying option. So you have to be on the team for at least 4 years. That includes practice squad, I think. And then so you basically you count as a veteran minimum, charged to the cap, but you get paid more in cash.
And so he gets $2.58 million.
That's what it is.
Paid to him, but he only counts $1.08 million against like salary.
Yeah, which is a huge, like it's like one of those situations where it gives a player an incentive to come back that might not be like a starter, like they're a very depth level type player, but it gives teams and players more flexibility, like because they don't care what their cap hit is, they care about what cash they're getting, and so that's really cool. I think I like that like type of provision just to give guys an opportunity to make more. But he's someone I'm just like curious like what the plan is for him, because if they do like Vidarian Lowe a lot at right tackle, like Oli Udoh wasn't very good at right guard when he was a starter in 2021. So what's that situation look like for him? Does he improve? Is he, I don't know, but it'll be an interesting situation to kind of play out. And then obviously we know Brandel's, I think, a pretty solid backup left tackle. He's in a contract year as well. So it'll be interesting to kind of see what the plan there is through the rest of through camp more than anything.
Yeah, I think we're heading into an interesting training camp for the first time in a while, just especially on the offensive side of the ball because there is so much continuity. But I'm excited to see the whole group kind of get those reps again, get out there, hopefully stay healthy. I think that's the key.
Literally the most important thing, health.
Yep. Like we've learned time and time again that preseason is not important, and these guys are athletes who can get ready for week 1 without, potentially getting hurt in training camp. And I think Kevin O'Connell in his first year as head coach did a really good job at kind of managing that last season. And so hopefully he can do it again. So before we round out the show, after covering the entire offense here, is there anything else you guys have from the offensive side of the ball that you just have to get off your chest?
Hey, Justin Jefferson. And that man a blank check.
Yes.
And TJ Hawkinson, but
I was saying, and TJ, like get
Not a
them both
blank,
under
not a blank
contract.
check
Let's
for
get
him.
these young studs locked
Yep.
in, and let's set it and forget it.
100%.
Yeah, I agree, especially because I just got a Justin Jefferson throwback jersey, so I really
great.
I know, that's what I told him.
Getting traded next offseason.
I said that same thing.
Yeah, I do have historically bad luck when it comes to Vikings jerseys. So
didn't you buy Eric Kendricks, and then next year he gets cut?
Well, we start with AP, got Adrian Peterson, and then the whole injury and child abuse stuff happened. Got Diggs. Next season he was traded. Got Hunter. His neck got hurt, and he just kind of hasn't been it. Got my father-in-law and my brother Thielen, and then he left. And then I got Kendricks for myself, and he left as well. So we're not doing too good, but I felt like Jefferson was a safe bet.
That's why I only ever buy the legends, Moss, Carter. Just get those guys, and then they're forever.
I wanted to get that Moss throwback though. That one looks fun.
Not too late.
I know. I might have to
look right behind Ryan. That's badass wood art by Luis up there. He's got the Moss fro.
Oh yeah, that's my favorite. That's my favorite era of Moss. It was the fro Moss.
Well, thank you guys for hopping on to preview the offense as we head into training camp soon.
Will we be going to training camp, Matt?
Yes, at some point. We'll figure it out when, but at some point we'll be out there. Hopefully meet everybody. Come say hi if you see us. We have a defensive preview coming on. We'll figure out the timing of it, but
this week,
maybe later this week. But yeah, a lot more content. Season is back. Football is back. And we're ready to kick this season off. So until next time, everybody, Skol Vikings.